Welcome Joe Cross. Thank you for joining me on the Fasting Summit.
Thank you, Sam. It's great to be here with you.
Great to be here with a juice as well.
You bet. We've got our
Can we finally cheers now?
We can. We've been waiting to drink this. We love our mean green juice. This one's got silver beet. It's got some celery, some cucumber, some ginger, some lemon, and some apple.
Awesome, beautiful. All right, so I know we could speak about 1,000 different things, but I felt to speak on how to create juicing as a movement. And I know that you've done some incredible things. And so for the people that don't know, do you want to speak a little bit about that and how you've already made a movement with juicing?
So a little bit about my backstory and what happened. So in 2007, I went to the United States and I took with me the 320 pound or 148 kilo body that I had that was loaded up on medication I'd been basically sick for 8 years, taking 5 or 6 different sets of pills a day. I was pre-diabetic, had high blood pressure, I had high cholesterol. I was a walking time bomb, ready for my heart attack, and I was just 40 years of age. And so I went with this mission to basically try and cure myself, to see whether it's possible that I could beat this chronic urticaria angioedema, which is like a fancy way of saying chronic hives and the body was attacking itself. It's an autoimmune disease. And I wanted to see whether the fact that I had been so ignorant of the powers of Mother Nature that I effectively, when I left home at 20 years of age, said, "See you later, Mother Nature, I'm going to go and live on processed food. I'm going to go and live on animal product only. I'm going to live on food made by people in white coats." And of course, I found out pretty quickly, if you live on food made by people who wear white coats, you end up seeing people in white coats. It's like the white coat circle, And I ended up seeing doctors and I ended up in an awful mess. So the mission was go to America, and we can talk about why I chose America later, but go to America, get a film crew, film my journey as I start a 2-year campaign on living on nothing but fruits, vegetables, nuts, beans, seeds. So effectively saying no to processed, saying no to animal product, and going completely plant only. And for the first 60 days of this 2-year journey, what would happen if I drunk the juice from these plants? In other words, extracted out the water that was trapped in the plant, just like we got in front of us here. And what would happen if I just juiced fast for 60 days? And so my movie, Fat, Sick and Nearly Dead, which is how I was on my 40th birthday, that film became, after like 4 years of a lot of work, 2011, that released onto Netflix. And it became a really big hit, seen by over 30 million people around the world. And so if you want to ask how do you start a movement, what you do is you make a film that people want to watch, that inspires people, and then you get lucky and you put it onto Netflix and then you get 30 million people to watch it, and then that's how you start a movement. So, but the real answer is that I just did something that I did something from within. I searched, rather than looking outside for answers, I looked within. And I think that's a powerful lesson that I have a saying that you don't learn anything new, you just remember what you've forgotten. And I think that with my own health, I basically, for the 8 years that I was sick, I was outsourcing my health to someone else. I was going along to doctors and saying, "Hey, listen, you went to university, you went to studied in all these grand places, you know more than I do. Here's some money. I'm going back to my job and my lifestyle. You fix me. I'll come back next week and I want like a pill. I want you to fix me." And that's where that's what I had been doing, and that's really in hindsight now with what I know, that really is shirking the responsibility that we all have. And when you really think about it and you look at the data, Sam, and I'm kind of a bit of a data guy. I like looking at numbers and understanding it, as my background was financial markets, is that 70% of all disease in the whole world, in the Western world that we live in, that most people watching this live in, 70% of all disease is caused by lifestyle choices. And those lifestyle choices are predominantly 6 big things, right? So there's smoking, what you eat and drink, and how much movement you do. They're the big 3. but closely followed by sleep, what your sleep is like, how you manage your stress, and your connectivity to others. How much do you feel like you're part of a community? Loneliness can be a huge detrimental effect on your health. So when you think about that, like 70% of all this pain, all this suffering, all this misery, all this cost, all this, life shortening, heart attacks, cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's, all of these factors, 70% of them are caused by us, and 30% are just bad luck. So when I was sick, I was like, you know what, that's pretty good odds that possibly what I'm doing, there's a 7 out of 10 chance that I'm responsible. So that's how I approached it, and that was my journey, and how I got to to answer your question in a very long way, how we got the juicing movement going.
Yeah, awesome. And it's an interesting way to look at it when you said you wanted to just outsource it onto everybody else. Like it was like, well, I'm the one that's sick, but that's your problem. You need to fix
job.
me. That's really
I'm not
interesting.
a doctor.
Yeah. And it's funny that, in today's society as well, like so many people often may have that mindset of, well, I can't not do my job, I can't do my lifestyle.
Most people. I mean, the minority of people take responsibility for their own health and say, you know what, I'm sick, maybe it's me. That's a minority. The majority, the greater mass of people out there, when they get sick, they go, I need to go to a doctor, I need a pill, I need a fix. And, that's changing with millennials. But certainly my generation, I think I'm X or Y, I can't remember, but the baby boomers who are my parents' age, that certainly is the majority.
And what do you think is the fear of doing something like what you did and took control and did something like this?
The fear. Well, there's the fear of the unknown, because look, Sam, the bottom line is no pain, no gain. It's an old saying, but it's really true. And many of us are trapped in this world of addiction on processed food, on animal product, on the sugars, the fats, the salts, the nicotines, the alcohols, the pharmaceutical drugs. We have an epidemic of addiction that is going on. And a lot of that addiction is caused because people really don't know, or not the case they don't know how to engage with Mother Nature again. Everybody knows that fruits and vegetables and nuts and beans and seeds are good for you. I mean, Sam, you'd have to go a long way with you and the camera crew, get on the road and go out and chat to... You'd have to talk to millions of people before you found one person who said, Sam, I didn't know that fruits and vegetables were good for you. I mean, everybody knows it. So if everybody knows it, why aren't they doing it? And that's that knowing it versus doing it gap. That's the divide. That's the issue that you're really touching on as to why don't they, what's stopping them. And it's crossing that gap of giving up the things in their life that are super comfort foods. And it really is addiction. It really is. I mean, most people... if you take sugar out of their life, and I know this personal experience that I find it incredibly difficult to remove sugar from my diet. It's like I go through massive withdrawals. So I know myself that I'm in inverted commas, a sugar addict. I know that I can handle nicotine. I don't have a problem with alcohol. I don't have a problem with fat and salt. I don't have a problem with. Sugar's my go-to. So a lot of it's about identifying what it is with yourself, and then basically accepting that, and then doing your best to try and work out ways that when stress happens, because we tend to fall back to old ways when we're under stress, and just identifying that and realizing it and saying, well, maybe instead of having a Tim Tam, I'm going to have a peach. I'm going to get my sugar, but I'm going to wrap it with a whole bunch of micronutrients that are going to do wonderful value for my cells. So it's a mindset, and then I think that brings us to the point of being present and being aware. And being aware and being present, that takes work, that takes effort. It is so easy just to coast along and cruise and go with the flow and be completely reactive rather than proactive. And so, it takes training. It's like you've got to practice. If you want to get fit and run a marathon, you've got to go out and do the miles. It's the same with your brain. If you want to be present and you want to make sure that you're making right choices and decisions, you need to practice. So everyone can do it, Sam. There's no one out there that can't do it, but it's just that case of how do you get started? And that's really what I've tried to build with my company, is the easy ways for people to get started. And I know we're talking about fasting, and I think one of the biggest powers of fasting, one of the most powerful tools of it, is it really supercharges people's ability to get started. Because it's like, we are just making a drastic action. We are taking drastic action and we are going from one direction to the other direction like that.
Yeah, powerful. And what did you find was when you started, because you did 60 days or out of...
I did 60 days of juice, and then I was going to do 22 more months of just plants to see if I could get off my medication, to see what would happen. But I only needed another 3 months of just Mother Nature's food. So in total, 5 months, I completely reversed my disease. I was off my medication, and I was like 40 pounds or 40 kilos or 100 pounds lighter.
Yeah, amazing. And so what was the hardest part for you, did you find, when you jumped into your fast?
Oh, well, I thought like a Mack truck had run over me and killed me. I thought I was going to die. Day 2 and day 3, I'm in there going, what the hell have I done? I'm not going to make it. How could I possibly think that I could do 60 days? And look, that's normal because to understand, I think, Sam, to take a step back from my problem, because it's a universal problem, is you have to look at fasting in terms of how does it fit in to us humans. So if I ask you, Sam, how old you are, okay, you're going to give me a number that's going to be how many laps around the sun you've done. How many times have you been around the sun, Sam? And you're going to say, 25 times, Joe. I go, well, in today's world, that means you're 25 years old, right? See, I'm going to argue that you're not 25 years old. I'm going to argue that you're 250,000 years old, because you're part of this species called Homo sapien, as I am too. We all have a little bit of Neanderthal in us, but we're majority Homo sapien. And that Homo sapien that has existed on this beautiful planet for 250,000 years, you are the result of around about 10,000 to 12,000 genetic swaps. Material being swapped by your parents and grandparents and great-great and great-great-great and go back like 10,000 great-grandparents. And that's created the magnificent you. So you bring with you this past into today's world. And that past has all these incredible instincts that you bring with you. Things that we can't describe as to, if a saber-toothed tiger came in the room right now, we ain't filming anymore. We're ducking for cover. We're running out of here. And that's an instinct, okay? But if someone walks in here with, 20 pepperoni pizzas from Pizza Hut, no one's ducking for cover. The bottom line is the saber-toothed tiger and the pizzas will both kill us. It's just a matter of time frame. So we haven't built up that instinct yet, but instincts play a huge role. Now, you're into the world of fasting, but many people watching and listening that are also the result of 10,000 or 12,000 genetic swaps, they need to realize that their great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents all fasted. Not out of choice, but because the world, we lived in this world where the world giveth and the world taketh away. We had feast and we had famine. So the whole concept of fasting is built into our DNA. It is absolute mission critical to our success to be the most successful species on this planet. We are the top, we beat everyone. Homo sapiens on planet Earth rule. So if you think about that power of being able to sustain long periods of time without nourishment, where's the nourishment coming from? It's coming from the fat. It's coming from the muscle. It's coming from the stored up energy reserves. So when you think like this, that's why when I see fat people, I don't see fat. I see stored up energy. I see people with, my God, they've got so much energy on their body. If a famine came to Sydney or Hong Kong or London or LA, they'd be the last person standing because they bought breakfast, lunch and dinner for perhaps a year and they've stacked it all onto their body. So this is a different way of thinking. And so I started in my journey by looking at this 145 kilo man who, I couldn't look down and see my toes. I had more chins than a Chinese phone book. I was just like grotesquely overweight. I was like, hang on a second, I'm not fat, I'm just full of energy. So I just have to work out a way to use up all this energy so that I can get back to a weight or a healthy level where I can bring in energy and expend it and use it, like get to a better balance. So if you take that view on what fasting is, you then use that instinct. So bring instinct back in. And if I take you upstairs, Sam, and put you in one of the bedrooms here, and let's assume you've never done fasting in your life, so you don't know what to expect. And I take you upstairs and I say, right, Sam, I'm locking you in this room. I'm going to put a bunch of water in here that's going to survive for the next 4 or 5 days. And that's it. How are you going to feel after an hour? You're going to be feeling okay because you had breakfast this morning or you had lunch, or in an hour you're going to be okay. If I come back in 24 hours, you're not going to be feeling too good. You're not going to be happy with, first of all, you're not going to be happy with me that I lock you in the room with just water. You're going to say, how'd I end up here? But what's happening is your body is reacting to the fact that it's saying, Sam, you haven't fed me. This is a little important. Maybe you've been off busy doing things with your friends, making fasting documentaries, organising a summit, off surfing. Sam, we need nourishment. So the body moves into this level of just turning the volume up on making you a bit grumpy, making you a bit agitated, giving you this sense that you are not somebody that is protecting us. You're ignorant of your duties. You need to get back on focus. Now, 24 hours later after that, which is 48 hours, you haven't responded to those messages the body is sending. So now the body's not happy with you. And it goes into this emergency level of, Sam, okay, we're going to show you who's in charge here. So whooshka, up goes the volume of the migraine, of the headache, of the pain, of whatever it is. We're going to make you feel so exhausted, so tired that we are going to bring all of your focus onto food. You're just going to think about food and nothing else. You can't concentrate on doing anything else. It's all about food because we need Sam to eat. 72 hours later, the body's in crisis mode. It's like, this is not good. This is really not good. I mean, we could all die here. This is all the cells talking to each other. This is the body colluding now to say, this is our last ditch effort. Let's really make Sam eat. After that moment where it fails and you're still drinking the water, you're still locked in the room, something magical happens in the body. All the cells and the nerves and all the little enzymes, they all get together and they say, hold on a second. Maybe it's not Sam's fault. Maybe there is no food for her to eat. Maybe she's back on the savannah, back to where her ancestors were, where Mother Nature isn't giving any food. There's only water. Well, we got two options. We can keep making her feel lousy. We can keep making her feel terrible. Or we can give her superpowers. We can make her eyesight better, her hearing better, her smell better. We can give her abundance of energy so she can get off her backside, get out of the cave, get down on the savannah and walk 100 miles and find food. Which option do you think the body's going to take? It's going to take the second option. So all of a sudden you go through this breakthrough where you feel like a superhuman and you go to this elevated level of clarity of mind. You can see, you can hear, you can smell, you can taste. You have abundance of energy. Any inflammation in your body is now gone. Any joints that were, it's all going, we're getting rid of that. We've got to get Sam out there and walk 100 miles. So you now are a superhuman because you're in crisis mode. And this is what the fasting power does. And that's why, because of that moment, that's why religion hijacked fasting. That's why religion, whether it's the Muslims, whether it's the Buddhists, the Christians, the Islam, whatever it is, they took that and said, we'll have some of that because that's closer to God. That's taking the mind to this higher level. So this is what I had to go through. This is what you have to go through. This is anyone out there that listening to us. We have to go through this pain barrier. We have to go through understanding that our body is really there trying to help and protect us. Hunger is an instinct. Thirst is an instinct. You and I breathing air is instinct. Did you wake up this morning and say, I'm going to Joe's house to film him today. I wonder if he's going to have enough air there. Should I bring my own air? Like, you didn't think like that, did you?
No, sorry.
Because it's a natural instinct that there is going to be enough air. And this is where we are with food, and this is where we are with water. And we need to break this cycle. We need to say, hold on a second, there is a feast on every corner here now. Everywhere you go, there is energy. And it's not necessarily the type of energy that fits well with our makeup of our 250,000-year-old body.
That is the best explanation of detox I've ever heard in my life. I was like picturing these little things in my body.
I'm a movie maker. I like telling stories.
It was really cool. And that's why I think, we go through, when we start a fast, you generally get to day 2 and 3, 2, 3, 4, and you're like flattened out. People then start to question, start to get challenged, and it's an awesome way to explain it. It's like that's your body going through that. But generally, you get to day 4 and then you're like, ah.
Exactly. Day 2 and 3 is really the worst. Now, if you are still suffering on day 4, it really goes to show that whatever you were doing, you really needed this.
Yeah.
And also, the inverse is correct, that people who get to day 3 and feel pretty good means generally that the diet they were on was pretty good. This is a great way of testing, and so all these super healthy eaters out there that think, I don't need to fast. Think again. This is a great way to see if what you're doing. I mean, we can talk for hours how many benefits there are of our fasting, but one of them is just to find out whether or not in your own diet there are things that you have an addiction / affinity / can't live without.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what about, I think it's important in what you did throughout your documentaries. I know you spoke to so many different people on the streets and just asked the question, but you didn't really get involved in if they were pro-fasting or not fasting. And that's pretty powerful when you're fasting, to go into restaurants and sit there where people are eating and ask these questions. But how did you find just, leading by example and just being able to do what you were doing internally and speak to other people? How did you find the power in that?
So I think that people are sick and tired of being told what to do, Sam. I mean, whenever I give my talks and speeches and, to whatever big crowds, I ask 2 questions. First of all, everyone put their hands up who loves being told what to do. Come on, show me the hands. No hands go up. Now, show of hands, how many people here love telling other people what to do? All the hands go up. And that there is the problem. We have this big disconnect. We all love telling people what to do. We all don't like being told what to do. So once you identify that, it's all about leading by example. It's not telling anyone anything. It's about saying, hey, you know what? This is what I'm doing. I'm doing this. If you're interested, I'll talk to you about it. If you're not interested, I'm not going to bore you with it. I mean, who am I to get in your world and tell you what to do? So that is very powerful. And you've got to be very careful with your word choice. Because I can be sitting here in a very nice way with lots of energy saying, Sam, you should do this and you should do this and you should do that. And you're only enthusiastic, and I'm not trying to actually say you should, but just using that word, all right, it's a turn off for many people. So instead of saying you should, you could say, perhaps you might try, or you could give this a go, and it's up to you. And just reiterating that for anyone out there who's trying to pass on this message, really important to use your words carefully.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, what did you find, if you could be completely transparent, what were the challenges along the way with that, with spreading this message or doing this journey?
I didn't really think about it as spreading a message when I was making the movie, because the movie is actually the showing and telling of the story is the spreading that happens later. So when I was doing the journey, very personal. It was all about me. And so I didn't really have any, I didn't feel like, I've just arrived in Kansas in this small town, I've got to go and convert. I'm not like some Christian, what do they call those guys that went out there, the last of the Mohicans, you know, where they run out there and try and save all the Indians, and you need to be baptized and you need to see the light, and, you know, we've got to get baby Jesus into your life, otherwise you're turned to damnation of hell. I don't look at it that way. I basically was like, you know what? I'm pretty much in a bad way. I've got all these problems. I'm 40. I may not make it to 50 if I don't do something about this. So who am I to sit there and tell anyone what they should do? So I was very much just focused on my own journey and getting through it and getting off my medications. I mean, during the fasting of juice, you know, I reduced my medications, but at the end of the 60 days, I was still on the pills. It took another 3 months of juicing and eating plants before I was completely off all medication. And I haven't been back since. And, you know, we're talking 9 years ago now since that happened.
That's awesome. When you were thinking you might not be alive.
Correct, exactly. Look, I mean, I think what we need to probably let the audience at home know about, and I'm a bit of a, you know, pedantic's probably the right word, but technically, fasting is only water, okay? Technically, fasting, if you talk about, say, intermittent fasting, that's going without nourishment except for water for a period of time. If you talk about Ramadan, it's like no water at all, even when the sun is up. So we just need to be careful, I think, just to educate people on exactly what fasting is. And so when we juice fast, we're not really fasting, okay? Because we are taking in nutrients. The power of a juice fast versus, say, a water fast is that juicing, if we look at this kind of looks like water. If it wasn't green, the way this is moving around, it would be like you would know. In other words, what I actually do, Sam, is that if I put a blindfold on you and laid you down on this table and I blocked your nose so you couldn't smell with a peg, and I poured juice over your forehead or water over your forehead, you actually wouldn't be able to tell the difference because this is 99.9% water. The 0.1% is the nutrients, is the energy, is these micronutrients, live enzymes, and all that beneficial stuff we can talk about. But if I made a smoothie where I put in some kale and coconut water and ice, and I put some banana in and some cacao and chia seeds and maca, and I blended it, you would instantly know when I poured over your forehead, you'd feel the thickness of it. And you say, oh, Joe, that's the smoothie. So if you take that analogy and put that inside your stomach, inside your gut, there's no light on in there. It's dark. So when the juice comes down, it's like, hold on a second, this is water. We don't need to activate all these enzymes to break down and strip away the nutrients from the fiber and put that fiber in a package and send that out the bowel and take these nutrients. None of that's required. This is rapid, immediate absorption because it's already, think about the juicer has sort of, we've outsourced the digestion to the machine. So this is the power of juice fasting in that we are tricking the body using modern day technology to trick the body into thinking it's drinking water. So that's why you get all those benefits I just talked about, but you still get the benefits of the nutrients. So you still get the sugars that are in the natural sugars that, for example, you know, this juice has apple in it. So we've taken some apple. It's got cucumber and celery. It's got silver beet. It's got lemon. It's got ginger. All of these incredible nutrients that Mother Nature, through the power of the sun, through the soil, through the atmosphere, through the water that's fallen from the clouds, that has grown this magnificent stick of celery, say. All of that nutrition, we have just taken it all and we've put it, it's trapped in the water molecules. It's not trapped in the skin of the apple. That's Mother Nature's packaging. So while fiber is very good for us, juicing actually supercharges the micronutrient, because if I took the same amount of produce that made our two juices here and I said, okay, Sam, you've got to eat all of this, you would fill up. So you're going to get lots of fiber and you're going to get some nutrients, but by juicing it, we increase the nutrients, take the fiber out. It's not like we're living our whole life without fiber, because there's many other things we can do in our diet, lunchtime, dinner tonight, to increase our fiber. So this is if you're drinking your juice on a daily basis. But if you're going to what we call juice fasting, I don't use that word much. I call it a reboot in my world, because it's technically not a fast. And so that is something that we really need to understand and differentiate. When we water fast, and I've done water fasting, and I know you have too. My longest water fast is 9 days. I've done 2 5-day water fasts already this year in 2017. I've already done 2 5-day water fasts. And I'll do a bunch more 5-day water fasts. That is incredibly powerful, what's going on when you do a 5-day water fast. I mean, it's very powerful doing a 5-day juice fast, don't get me wrong, but I can't talk to the science of a 5-day water fast because, quite frankly, it hasn't been done. But what we do know is some of the great work that's been done out of University of Southern California in Dr. Walter Longo. He's with a V, not Walter, with a V, Longo. And they've been publishing studies for 11 years now. And more recently, they have really been able to pinpoint and identify that there's 2 major benefits that happen to your body when you do, say, a 5-day water fast. One of the big benefits happens while you're fasting, and the second big benefit happens on what they call refeeding, when you take day 6 and day 7 and you start to nourish the body again. So the first benefit happens not on day 1, 2, or 3, but around day 4 and day 5, which is why you need to get to that point. And it's almost like the body, in its infinite wisdom, sort of says, okay, remember I talked about that emergency earlier? You know, we're in this emergency period, Sam. The body kind of says, okay, well, hang on a second now. We've got to self-eat. We've got to start self-digesting. We got to like eat ourselves to stay alive. So what are we going to hand up to be converted into energy? What are we going to give so that at the molecular level of cell, we're going to convert into life, okay? Because that's what the definition of life is, that our cells are converting energy. Death is when they stop doing that, okay? So what are we going to give up? And when you really go into this and look at it, the body says, you know what? I'm not going to give up the heart. I'm not giving up the lungs. I'm not giving up the kidneys. I need the bladder. I need the eye. The eye's good. We need the eye. I'm not giving up the tongue. I'm going to give up the cells that are the most least needed. I'm going to sort of put this beautiful protection around all my stronger cells, and I'm going to offer up for sacrifice all the mutated cells, little cysts, little crack, all the stuff that, you know, like a spring clean, if you like. And I'm going to offer all that up to be self-digested. So that's the first power. We are effectively, by a way of natural selection, Charles Darwin would be super excited about this, all the stuff that's weak, gone. Now I'm not saying it's gone as in you get rid of it all, but that's what goes first. That's what happens in that day 4 and day 5, okay? Now, when you start eating again on day 6, day 7, this refeeding, what they have identified is that stem cells, stem cells are the cells in your body that give the growth. They're like, they're very active when we're young, when we're infants, when we're kids, when we're growing. The stem cells play a huge role in our regeneration and growth of who we are. As we get older, the stem cells say, oh, well, I've done my job. I'm putting my feet up and reading the paper and watching the footy. I'm not going to do any more work. And our problem as we get older with illness is that a lot of these diseases that we call, you know, diabetes, heart disease, cancer, all these things, these are very much because the organs have stopped regenerating and they're not protecting themselves. So we need to work out ways to turn these stem cells on so that we kind of like go back to when we were 4 or 5 and we get this huge burst of brand new amazing cells that can regenerate, say, a pancreas or say a heart or whatever. And that's what they found happens. And it only happens, or when I say only, the only way they found this to happen is in the refeeding after a 5-day water fast. Do a 2-day water fast, you're not going to get it. If you do a 10 or 20-day water fast, you'll get it. But really, doing 20 days of water, why not do 4, 5 days of water so you get the regeneration 4 times as opposed to just 1. Does that make sense?
Interesting. That's really interesting. And what do you mean on day 6? Is there a certain refeeding process you need to abide by?
Well, obviously there is, but we're not talking about going out and having a Big Mac, quarter pound with cheese, a chocolate sundae and French fries. We're not talking about that kind of...
The famine's over.
We're not talking about refeeding. We're talking about going back to a diet, once again, going back to our ancestors. We need to have protein. If you are someone who eats animal, then you can have animal protein. You need to have the carbohydrates from the plant kingdom, and you know there's your and you need to have healthy fats. Okay, so that's what generates the refeeding. So you have this nice balance of the macronutrient world versus the micronutrient world. And for those people who don't understand what I just said about macro and micro, macronutrients is very simple. There's 3 things: protein, carbohydrate, and fat. That's what we call the big boys on the block. And everyone's heard of those. I don't need to explain any of those. Everyone's heard of them. The reason you've all heard of them is because they're in every bit of food that we, any group of food. They're in processed food. They're in animal product, and they're in the plant world. When we talk about micronutrients, we're talking about vitamins and minerals and enzymes and phytochemicals and phenolic acid. And we're talking about tens and tens of thousands of different little micronutrients, hence the name. And generally speaking, these are only found in plant food. Now, there are zoologists, there are zoo micronutrients or zoo nutrients that are found in some animals. And so, yes, there are some animals that have micronutrients, but to be kind of clear, 99% of them are in the plant world. You will not find micronutrients in processed food because the processing process heats and kills the great stuff so that the other stuff lasts, so that the microbes, because the microbes want the good stuff. The reason why we call it processed and it lasts longer, and we can ship it and it can store and it can stay in the supermarket for 6 months, is because there's no good stuff left in it. So the microbes don't want it, hence it's fine. We're meant to eat food that rots. So this balance of micronutrient and macronutrient, this is the big problem in the world today. Out of every 20 calories, I use calories because I spend most of my time in America, or kilojoules if you want to talk about Australian language. For every 20 that we have, just 1, the average person, is filled with micronutrients. 19 have macronutrient only. And when you feed your body over time, mostly macronutrients, and you starve it for micronutrients, you are creating a complete, perfect idea for disease. You couldn't be better at creating a model for disease to become the player and the winner. And so, you got to love your plants and you got to love yourself. These are the 2 building blocks for getting what I call back to being whole from being broken. I'm a very binary person, Sam. I think that you're either broken or you're whole, okay? And everyone listening today can ask themselves that question. They don't need to go to the doctor. They can say in the mirror, am I whole or am I broken? They can do that. And if you're broken, there's a real good chance the reason you're broken is because you don't love yourself and you don't love your plants enough. And we need to build those 2 things in order for us to become whole again.
Beautiful. And do you think that just either one of those things works? So just a micronutrient lifestyle or just a macro? What do you think in crossing the 2 together? Is that the optimum, or is the optimum just micro? Or
No, you can't just have micronutrients. The whole game plan here is our body is designed for a lovely balance of both. Protein is critical, carbohydrate, fat, these are critical elements to our body, so we all need them. The problem is when you go to McDonald's, say, and not to pick on McDonald's, but if you just go to McDonald's and you had a Big Mac, a quarter pound with cheese, an apple pie, a sundae, a cheeseburger, a chocolate shake and a Diet Coke, which is what I used to have back in the old days. That was my meal. When you have that, you're getting a tremendous amount of carbohydrate. You're getting a tremendous amount of fat. Believe it or not, there's not a lot of protein in there. There is protein, but it's not as much as you think because protein's quite expensive. So the fast food companies work out ways to get their protein down. But I'm getting all of those things. So I'm getting the macronutrients. but there's no micronutrients. I mean, maybe on the lettuce or maybe on the, you know, the pickle, there might be something in there. But the percentages of micronutrients I get in that meal it's irrelevant. So if you do want to eat McDonald's, and I'm somebody, you know, I'm not the food police. If you want to have Macca's once a month, fine, knock yourself out. But if you're saying to me, Joe, I love my Macca's when I go to the footy. I want to, you know, I go down to Brookvale Oval and I want to watch the Sea Eagles or whatever it is. And I love my McDonald's when I go to the footy, and I go to the footy once a month. I'm going to say, great. How about having some green juice and making sure you have a huge green salad for dinner that night if you went during the day, or flip it around for lunch. So we are getting a day where we're getting lots of micronutrients in the first 2 meals, and then we're going to go and have our fun meal, and we're going to splurge a bit. Now, I wouldn't suggest that should be the fun meal, to be honest, because I don't think that's really doing you any good whatsoever. But if that's your choice, that's your choice, and I'm not the one to tell you. I think that there is plenty of other what I call fun part of town meals. I mean, for me, one of my funnest meals is having pasta. I love my pasta and I love my pesto. So I know that when I'm having my pesto pasta, not a lot of micronutrients in that. So I've got to make sure that I've had a day where I've had my smoothies or my juices, I've had salad, and tonight's my pasta night and I'm going to enjoy it. So it's very much about living in a world of being present. Coming back to that consciousness.
Yeah, got it. And what about when you came off, you did 60 days, what did you find that was the main difference? Because I know sometimes you could go through, you know, let's call it a reboot or a water fast, and all of a sudden your taste buds are different and you don't really want to go to Macca's anymore. Kind of drops off. So what I haven't
been to Macca's in 9 years, so that's how much it changed me.
Yeah, and so what can people expect when they're doing something like this, or what did you experience after the 60 days of? Was that the thing that you needed to change your lifestyle? Or?
Okay, so the best way to answer that question is with another story, Sam.
Love your stories.
So let's just assume that I said to you, what's your most favourite meal in the world, like your most favourite restaurant? And I took you out to dinner and you went to your favourite restaurant. Let's just, for the argument's sake, say it was Japanese, okay? And I gave you sushi till you couldn't eat any more sushi. I gave you the tempura, you had a beautiful sake, you might have had a beer, you might have had a glass of wine. I've given you the chocolate fondue cake to dessert, and I have filled you up. You've had a massive, big night of celebration because you've gone to your favourite place, right? And we come outside the restaurant, and all of a sudden I appear with a big tray of beautiful micronutrients. I have some kale, I have some lemon, I have some strawberries, I have some berries, I have some apple. It's just beautiful. It's just colours, or the reds, the purples, the greens. It's just looking at it. Sam, how good's this? You're going to say, Joe, no. I'm fine, thank you. I don't need any of that. I'm going home to sleep. Okay, that's scenario 1. Scenario 2 is I'm taking you on an aeroplane. I'm going to take you out to some beautiful island in the South Pacific where there is no food. There's only shelter and water. I'm going to leave you there for like 30 days. And I come back on day 31. You've had nothing to eat. You've only had water. You haven't even had a chance to wash your hair because you've just got salt water, and you're on this beach. And I come out with the same platter, this same tray with all these beautiful fruits and vegetables. I'm going to tell you now, you're going to say that's the best meal you've ever had in your life. Because where you've come from in scenario 1, where your mind has been hit with all this salt and all this sugar and all this fat, and you've just had this huge, like they call it the bliss point. Your bliss point in your mind has been blown away by all this food. The last thing you want to do is go back to Mother Nature's best. But when you haven't had it for a month, you will talk about that meal for the rest of your life. You'll say, those strawberries, tasting that after 30 days of not having anything blew my mind, because we've reset your bliss system. We've reset the point. And this is the power of a reboot of fasting. That's why I call it a reboot. So you are able to bring down where the taste buds are, and the excitement levels power on when you go back to tasting fruits and vegetables. I mean, I'm sure you can identify. I now realise that if I don't go a day without micronutrients, I feel it. I mean, I went on a golf trip just recently for a couple of 4-day golf trip, and we went to a remote part of Australia, and it was difficult. I mean, there was no juice bars. I mean, we were staying in this golf place, and all they had were pies and burgers and chips. And of course, I'm on holidays. I'm gonna, I'm doing my best, but boy, I didn't feel good after 3 or 4 days, And I was so excited to get back to my juicer, my blender, my market, and you just notice it. Now, 10 years ago, I would have thought you had rocks in your head because that's how I lived. So it really is something that with practice, your body gets to attune to a space where you go, I actually can't live without it. So it's kind of like the reverse of the addiction to the food that's not so beneficial to you, that you actually end up wanting to have food that is beneficial to you.
Yeah, and it's so true. I can actually remember the taste of a raspberry after my water fast.
Oh, yeah.
Like an explosion in
And you'll never forget that.
Yeah,
You'll be 124 and you'll remember that. Because you aren't going to live that long, you know that.
Yeah, I know that.
Good.
Okay, wow. And so what would you say then is your biggest advice or tip for someone who is about to embark on this journey or is already on a journey and they want to gain support from family and friends around them?
Oh, well, that's a hard one. Because you don't want to be like, you don't want to like stand on the corner and shout and tell everyone what to do. So the best thing to do is to say in a very nice way, hey, listen, I've done a lot of research on this. I'm listening to my body. I'm feeling from within that I need to try this. What I would love is your support. I don't want you to question what I'm doing. If I was going to Las Vegas for a 7-day holiday and I said I'm going to go to the fast food restaurant for breakfast, lunch and dinner, and I'm going to eat all that crap for like 7 days, no one would blink an eye. Oh, have a great time, Sam. Enjoy yourself. Oh, enjoy all those buffets. You'd be sending photos back of the ice cream and of the profiteroles and the custard and the big steaks and, oh, Sam's having a great time. Meanwhile, it's like, where are the micronutrients in there So to go the other way, to say, I need your support because I'm going to try and do something that's going to nourish my body. And hey, guess what? Our great-great-great-great-grandparents did this and we're here. So I think you just use fun, logic, and ask for support in a nice way. Not say, I'm doing this, you should all do it, you're all bad people because you're having, a burger. That gets people offside.
Yeah. What did you do because you did a pretty massive thing, right? Went from your lifestyle to I'm going to go to America, and we can talk about why you chose America, but what did you ask for support or did you just go?
Well, my support was the camera. I mean, that lens, I was like looking in the lens and I was going, okay, so all these people are going to be watching this in the future. That's my support. So I kind of had a friend with me, which was the lens. I obviously asked my family and told them, and they were, when you're in the crisis state that I was in, they were happy to support anything I was trying to do to make my life better. So generally speaking, you do find out who cares about you and, their attitude. And, if people stop and think for a moment and go, okay, Sam's come to me, she wants to do a fast. Well, Sam's a bright girl. She's smart. She knows what she's doing. Go for it. I support you. And that's where it just takes a couple of steps of people to pull back rather than just be, once again, that reactive. Oh, you're crazy. What are you doing? Oh, you're going to die, I ask people when I give talks, how long can you go for drinking water before you die? And most people think 20 days. I mean, insane. That today's world, the marketing that's been done, that if you don't eat food for 20 days, you're going to die. I mean, go and look up these water fasting, starvation, what do they call them? When they protest, these protesting diets, when they what's the word? I'm blanking on it, but when they starve themselves as a protest, all right? They last 170, 180 days. These are, you can go a long time, and the bigger you are, the longer you can live. So don't let anyone tell you that you're going to die in 20 days. Now, if you're going to drink water only for 20 days, you've got to be careful. You need to be supervised because you might get in the car and go driving and then pass out because you haven't got enough salt or enough sugar. So it's not something you just like willy-nilly go off and do yourself. I would not advise that of anybody, but juice fasting is a different story. unless you're on like blood thinning medication, pretty much anybody, if you're on any medication, you should check with your doctor. But if you are not on medication, then pretty much anybody can juice fast, because you're getting a tremendous amount of nutrition in your juice when you drink that.
And another point on medications, like I guess, I know there'll be so many people listening now that are on medications and are interested but have that fear of like, it's like that blanket of you're holding on to, you've been told you need to medicate. And from experience, what was the process of you being able to get off them?
Well, all those people that are on medication, okay, here are the facts. 70% of them are on the medication because of their own choices of lifestyle. That's the fact. That's the data. So if you're on the medication, you've got to choose, am I one of those people that because of my lifestyle, I'm taking this blood thinner, or I'm taking this medicine for cholesterol, or I'm taking this, is it because of my lifestyle? And is it too late to change that lifestyle to see whether those conditions or that issue that's causing the problem, whether that can be reversed? That's the question. And it really comes down to how much do you love yourself? How much do you love your plants? It's what it comes down to. Most people wake up this morning, Sam, they get in the mirror, most people over the age of 30, and they look in the mirror and they don't like what they see. They say things like, you're fat, you're ugly, you're old, you're a loser, you're a no-hoper, you're terrible. They don't say it out loud, but it goes through their head. And this is the thought of the day. You are hopeless. This is their conversation. And they do it every day. Then they go out and try and face the world. How's your day going to go after that little pep talk? Not too good. So that's the loving yourself part. Now, once you do a reboot, once you take this world of stopping all of this stuff that's the noise of this not very high vibration food, you take that out and you put in high vibration food via juice, you get the double whammy of you're supercharging the nutrients and you're taking away the crap. And as well as I do, you get out of that shower in your birthday suit in the morning and you're bouncing around the mirror going, you look good, Joe, oh, you look great, Sam, you're on fire, don't you? Think about it. On camera, you don't lie. How much better do you feel and look in front of the mirror when you're on a fast? You just feel good.
Yeah.
You've got that wind behind your sails, you've got momentum,
yeah.
You're feeling fabulous. So that is a huge part of the self-love. That's how you start. So I can't push them. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. But I can say with a high degree of confidence that once you start drinking the Kool-Aid, so to speak, give it a few days. What do you got to lose except maybe 20 pounds?
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. I guess the last thing would be, if you could give people steps that they could take right now, firstly, to gain self-love, and secondly, to eat more nutritious food, what would those steps be that people could take starting from now?
So I think it's very much about a mindset, and I don't want everyone to sort of like, oh my God, I'll listen to Joe talk and we're going to go out and buy a juicer tomorrow and we're going to start tomorrow. That is not a recipe for success. Some people do that, but you got to plan this out. You gotta like, okay, now I've heard this stuff from Joe. Maybe I'll go and watch his movies and I'll learn more. Maybe I'll get a book. Maybe not Joe's, because I'm not here to sell my stuff. If someone wants to buy my stuff, great, but buy other books, read, go on YouTube, research. Like I said at the beginning, you don't learn anything new, Sam, you just remember what you've forgotten. So all the big problems you have in the world, right now, if I was to sit down with you and say, Sam, what's your biggest problem? And you said, Joe, it's X. I'd say, well, you know what, Sam? You have the answer to X. It's within you. Your job is to find people to help bring X answer to the surface. So we all know the answers. So by doing the work, by getting online, by watching this, by doing others and researching, they'll get to a point where they go, hey, I've got the knowledge here. I've got the confidence. I know what to do. So I'm going to try this. So that's that first step. The self-love is basically a mindset. It's the realization that fat on you is not fat, it's stored energy. It's like I always talk about the fat under the arm, this part here. It's like that's the unluckiest fat on the body. You know why?
What?
Because when you're going for the donut or the lamington or the cake and you're putting it, this fat sees it. It says, hold on, that fat's jumping the line. I was going to be used. I was going to be used up and converted into life. That guy just jumped in the queue. And this is the important thing to realise, is that once we put all this extra energy into our body where we've already got lots of energy, we're just putting off that conversion down the path. So it's having these knowledge, and it's realising that and understanding that it all starts with ourselves. If you think someone's going to like appear out of the clouds and wave a magic wand and get you well again and, you know, tap on your stomach and lose 20 kilos, I mean, you believe in fairies at the bottom of the garden if you believe that. I mean, that's a nonsense. And the government's not going to do anything about it, and your family's not going to do anything about it, and your company who you work for is not going to do anything about it, and your kids are not going to do anything about it. It's all about you. It's about personal responsibility. You only get one shot at this, okay? You only get it. If I say to you, Sam, I'm going to buy you a car, right? You go, oh, that's pretty good, Joe. Joe's buying me a car.
That's pretty
exciting.
good, thank you, yeah.
And I said, but here's the catch. The car I'm buying you, you're only going to get one car for the rest of your life. You know, you're a young person. This car I'm buying you, you're going to drive this car for the next 100 years. You are going to look after that car better than any car you've ever had. Same with our body. You only get one go. We don't get a chance to go and trade in our body. We don't get a chance to take it in.
Upgrade.
No, we don't get that, right? So and I learned this the hard way. I mean, look, I trashed myself for 40 years. I spent the first 40 years trying to kill myself, and I spent the rest of my life trying to stay alive. So there's the yin and yang. I mean, I was ignorant. Okay? I didn't know what was going on. At least I know now. And, you know, I'm at an age now, I'm close to 50, that I have learned and I've changed the last 10 years. And so I don't take any medication. I get sick every now and then. I think I've had like 2 courses of antibiotics in 10 years because one was a chest infection, the other was a tooth infection. And, you know, stuff happens. You've got to like use medicine when it's required. I don't like taking antibiotics. I don't like taking medicine, but, you know, I listen to professionals, and there are times when it's important. So these things, you know, we live in a modern day world, take advantage of those things that are there, but also take responsibility. And it's not about sitting back and being reactive. It's about being out there on the front foot. You are the CEO of your own body. You're the CEO of your own health. And too many of us, me included, basically just said, you know what, that's someone else's problem, not mine. And that's pretty ignorant. Yeah.
And so what was the step to self-love? Is taking responsibility?
No, I think the self-love is about having consciousness. It's immediately just talking to yourself. It's about positive affirmation. It's about, you know, we all have 2 voices in our body or in our mind, in our head. There's a voice of you can do it, and there's a voice of you can't. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's about knocking out the you can't. I mean, you got to silence the you can't, and you got to let the you can rise. Now, getting in that mirror every morning and realizing that you're saying those negative things is the first step. It's like a consciousness of, wow, every day I'm putting myself down. I'm going to stop that. I'm going to silence that negative voice. I'm going to let the positive voice rise. So that's the first step, is just being aware of all the times you're saying and putting yourself down. Ask your loved ones to say, if you ever hear me talking about myself as not being valuable, please let me know. Because people have habits. Oh, I could never do that. Oh, I'm no good at that. I'm terrible. I'm this. People say it without even realising it. Because that's their habit. But that reinforces the positive voice, that pushes the positive voice down, and let that negative voice ride, you know, let it fly. So in conjunction with that consciousness of self-love, you bring the consciousness of saying, well, you know how I'm going to help that? I'm going to bring Mother Nature into the equation. I'm going to be a conscious eater, that I'm going to put more plant food into my life, which is why juicing is so powerful, because it's a great way of taking a whole bunch of produce, putting it through the juicer, drinking it and saying, I've had a great win there. Now I feel good. Like this morning, I don't even know what time it is. It's probably lunchtime. I've had a smoothie and I've had a juice, and I'm firing on all cylinders. I don't need to have cereal or an omelette. I like those things from time to time, But that's not an everyday thing for me. That's like weekends, go to a cafe. Yeah, let's have eggs and let's have some avocado smashed on toast. You know, they're fun. But on a general basis, it's about, I'm on a mission. I've woken up, I'm alive. Thank you, I'm alive. Okay, I get to spend another day on Earth, maybe. And I've got to work out how am I going to get my micronutrients into my body. The macronutrients are easy. They come. The micronutrients is what you've got to go hunting for.
And then that's the whole, you know, eating the high vibrational foods, putting that in your body is going to then help the vibrations of what you're telling yourself, your consciousness, your awareness.
They're connected. That's why you can't do one without the other.
Yeah.
They're connected.
Yeah.
Okay? You have to have the balance. And that's why these are the two bookends to what I think is the way to start the journey. There are other things you've got to do. You know, you've got to move. You've got to learn. You've got to take an interest in education. You know, you can have the best intention, walk into the produce section of the supermarket and go, oh, what do I do now? So you've got to learn.
Yeah.
You know, this is a responsibility. It's a shame that what we teach in schools, you know, geography and history and science and all that, you know, they're good things, but we should be teaching cooking. Every kid should leave school, no matter where they are in the world, knowing how to make 10 or 15 plant-based meals. That's, you know, it's insanity that we don't teach this. Because if every single person knew how to make an incredible hummus with a beautiful salad and chickpeas and bring nuts and seeds in and they could just do it like that, we'd have a different world.
Yeah.
It's not the fact that people don't know it's good for you, Sam. It's not the people haven't got the best intention. They just don't have the knowledge of how to execute. The knowing it versus doing it.
So true. Well, and that's why it's great that there's people like you in the world being able to share with everyone here today.
Well, that's very kind, Sam, very kind.
Yes. Well, we're out of juice.
We're out of juice and we're out of time.
We're out of time. But thank you. Where can we go to find out more about you and what you're doing?
Well, if you have Netflix, you can just put Joe Cross into Netflix and my movies come up. I've got 3 movies out there, Fat, Sick and Nearly Dead 1 and 2, and the new movie, The Kids Menu, which is all about how we can get the next generation to get fired up and excited about plants. I've written a bunch of books. I've got apps on the iStore, on the iTunes store and other Android stores. But rebootwithjoe.com is my website. You can find out lots more information. And also at Joe the Juicer on Instagram and Twitter and on Facebook. It's just Joe Cross, I think.
Yeah, he's been mastering the Instagram story today, so
we've had a bit of story fun.
I've learned something along the way.
Fantastic, Sam. That's good. It's always good when you can learn something.
Yeah.
It's a good day when you learn something.
It is. It's a great day. Well, thank you again for joining us here today, and we hope to speak to you again soon.
Juice on.